Regular meeting number 49 will come to order. Please stand for the playing of the national anthem.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Let us pray. Generous and gracious God, we come to you at the beginning of another session of Columbus City Council, conscious of our need for your presence and guidance. While the members of this council serve honorably and diligently, they still look to you for your assistance as servants and lawmakers for the citizens of the great city of Columbus. In these days of world tension and alienation, help us all to realize that we need to come together to help each other and to seek the common good of all. The spirit of hope moves us to look forward to better days ahead and to resist the temptation to feel that all is lost. We believe, Lord God, that you've given us the wherewithal to find our way through these difficult times. Our trust is in you and in the fundamental goodwill of good people. As our Columbus City Council members conduct the business of our city this evening, increase within them and all of us our conviction that your providential care is indeed with us and that you will never allow us to face our troubled times alone. Amen.
Greg Klein, Mills, Paley, Tyson, President Ginther.
Thank you. Can I get a motion to dispense with the reading of the journal?
So moved.
Is there a second? Clerk, call the roll.
Craig Klein, Mills, Paley, Tyson, President Ginther.
This week's communications received by the City Clerk's office are listed on the agenda and will be published in the City Bulletin. Are there any other communications to be read into the record?
Not at this time.
Any resolutions or announcements from members of council? Councilmember Craig.
Thank you, President Ginther. I do have an announcement, an exciting announcement. It's Walking 50 Plus Jamboree. It is Friday, October the 3rd. It will commence at 8:30 a.m. Is registration, and 9 o'clock a.m. is the start. It will be at Smith Farms at 3285 Watkins Road. And please bring a friend or a group for the team challenge. It will be walking trails that range from 1 to 4 miles, participating in line dancing. There'll be snacks and vendors and hay rides and more. So certainly encourage all of those that are 50 plus to come to the Jamboree. Director, you have any other comments to make regarding this?
Councilman Craig, I think you summed it up well. We encourage everybody to come out, have a good time. It's rain or shine, so dress according to the weather, and we look forward to having a good time.
All right. Thank you, Director. Thank you. That is all that I have.
Thank you, Councilmember Craig. Councilmember Klein?
Thank you, Council President Ginther. I do have one resolution, 169X2014, to honor and recognize Columbus Public Safety Director Mitchell J. Brown for his many years of service on the occasion of his retirement. I move for passage.
Greg Klein, Mills, Paley, Tyson, President Ginther.
Director Brown, please come to the podium. You don't need to sit in the chair. The resolution is ripe with his many accomplishments, not only here in the city of Columbus, but spanning decades as the public safety director here in the city, the public safety director for the city of Cleveland, the public safety director for the state of Ohio, the registrar for the Ohio Department of Motor Vehicles, the commissioner for emergency medical services in Cleveland, and then of course the things that he's done in Columbus, all of which has made the city of Columbus one of the safest major metropolitan cities in the United States under his leadership and tenure. I don't need to say anything. The floor is yours, Director Brown.
Council President Ginther, members of council, it's been an interesting time for me. It's 14 years. I feel like Mr. Dorian over there. We've touched base on so many issues for over the years, and even before I came to City Council. My colleagues, certainly the fellow directors who I've worked with over the years, but also all the members of this council. It's been a very, very enjoyable time for me. My objective has always been the citizens of the city of Columbus, to make sure that they're taken care of and that they remain very safe and provide the city with all the appropriate amenities that are necessary from our fire division and our police division, and I think I've done that. When I look around this room and think about all the individuals who I've worked with, certainly the members of council and your respective staffs, I look back and see Angie back there, and we've known each other for a very, very long period of time. I'm going to be moving on, doing some other things. It'll be a lot of fun, but this has always been a lot of fun. And I can only say that I hope that I leave the city better than when I came. And certainly that's special for me. When you have the responsibility for public safety, it is an awesome responsibility. I recognize that. And I think that when Council President Ginther was safety chair, the relationship that we had, and when Councilmember Mills was safety chair, the relationship that we had, and certainly with Councilmember Klein. Priscilla Tyson, I knew before she even came to City Council. Herschel and I go back a long, long way, and certainly Ms. Paley, we've known each other for quite a long time. So it's a pleasure for me. And I didn't think I'd be standing here saying this in front of City Council, but it's been an honor and a privilege to serve the citizens of Columbus.
I know I don't need to open it up for comments, so I'll just go around. We'll start with Councilmember Craig.
Director, it's like the chair has said, for all of us, you know, we come to this day really with mixed emotions. Because really from a professional level and a personal level, how much we love you and appreciate you. It is a very tough job, serving as the safety director, and you have done that with integrity and with character. And, you know, I will miss you greatly. I will miss you greatly. I think that our department is better that you have been here. I think our safety forces, fire and police are better because you're here. I've watched you at many of the classes, how you honor them. You always take out something personal about a recruit every single time so that they understand that you'll care about every one of them from a personal standpoint. And to me personally, you have really helped me in ways you can't even imagine, and how you've helped me in my life. And so I love you dearly. I wish you well in whatever endeavor that you're choosing, but know that we love you and we're going to be with you. Our city is much better because you have been here. God bless you and thank you for your service.
Councilmember Tyson.
Thank you, Chairman Klein. And to Director, certainly I've known you those 14 years. Our initial workings have been at Columbus Civil Service Commission, and just had the honor and the privilege to work with you in those hearings, as well as ensuring that, looking at those job descriptions, just the work that you did for us in civil service, and to move our city forward to be able to hire the best employees for the Safety Division, as well as also we had a lot of hearings together that were not as fun, but we still came to I think the right decisions, working also with Councilmember Paley over at Civil Service. But again, I just want to say thank you for keeping the city safe. That's a tough job. You've had a tough job. And you've never, ever said, never complained. You've always had a smile on your face. You kept our city safe. I love your professionalism. And I just want to say thank you to your family for allowing you to be in this role, because it's a tough role. And so thank you to your family. And I just wish you Godspeed and just continued success with the rest of your career. Thank you so much. God bless you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Paley.
I think that, and I say this a lot, except for I think it really applies to you. I think when we rebranded the name of the City of Columbus and put that us in there, you're on the top of that list. You're what makes Columbus what it is. And I hope you continue to do that, so don't go too far away. Thank you.
Councilmember Mills.
This is hard to do with camera staring, but I'll give it a shot. To say to you thank you would not certainly measure up, but I want to thank you and want to thank your family for sharing you with me. You've kept me safe in every city I've lived in. And not many can say that, but I am here because of leadership like you, to watch as an example and to aspire to, that puts citizens first. That has always been you and forever be you, and for that I am grateful. For your example, for your friendship, and for your service. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
Council President Ginther.
Thank you, Chairman Klein, and thank you, Director, for being here tonight with us for us to recognize you. I know that there are recognitions taking place tomorrow and Friday and probably many others in the coming weeks, but it's special for us that you be here tonight for us to thank you in this way. All of the acknowledgments and accomplishments are listed and will be read several times over, but my gratitude to you is the friend and mentor that you've been to me and so many other council members and public servants. And I say to you tonight that I hope to become half the man, husband, father, and public servant that you are. Thank you on behalf of a grateful city.
Thank you.
Director Brown, I had the good fortune of clerking for John Holshoe. I don't know if you remember Judge Holshoe over at the federal courthouse. He served many years.
I do.
Storied legal career prior to becoming a federal judge. And then, of course, once he became a federal judge, one of the greatest, in my opinion, scholars in the Southern District of Ohio. But when I talk about clerking for Judge Holshoe, his resume speaks for itself of all the things that he accomplished. But the one thing that I think stands out about Judge Holshoe is that he was a true gentleman, like one of the world's last gentlemen, I always said, because he was just that sweetheart of a guy who put himself second to everybody else. And I can honestly say that that list now includes you, of your storied career, and all of the things that you've accomplished speak for itself, but it's secondary to the fact of just how much of a true gentleman you are. And that list, in my book, is a very important list of including Judge Holshoe and Mitch Brown on that. So thank you on behalf of the City Council and the Safety Committee and what you've done to keep us all safe. Thank you for serving the City of Columbus.
Thank you.
Comments? Yes, sir. President Ginther, I also have some special guests in the back that you may heard clapping on their own right. Please come forward. officers. We have Bart and Benno. Please come. This is on the consent agenda, but I think it was important to recognize that these two heroes in our community, Bart and Benno, have been serving the city of Columbus, and they're moving on to different pastures and going home here with their officer handlers. They're coming to my house. Coming to your house? Coming to Director Brown's house? Do you maybe want to share the accomplishments of these fine officers? You might please go to the mic so that we can hear how these fine animals serve the city of Columbus with distinction.
Both these dogs, Benno and Bart, they're 11 and 9 respectively. They've put in collectively about 16 years of service with the City of Columbus Police Department. Collectively, they've done about $2.2 million in drug seizure money, over 7,000 pounds in marijuana seized, almost 8 kilos of cocaine, and numerous felony and misdemeanor arrests as a result of those steps. It's all about their nose, and the dog knows, so to speak. So they're very deserving of some well-earned retirements.
Well, Councilmember Mills and I know who's an avid dog lover and former safety chair, have some special gifts for Bart and Benno, but I'm going to hand them from a distance so they don't bite my hand off upon delivery. I promise you they're just dog treats. There's nothing in here, so if they alert, I have some serious issues with 3 Dog Bakery.
As long as they don't scratch at the box, we're safe.
Thank you for your service, buddy.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Councilmember Klein. Councilmember Mills? Councilmember Paley?
I just have a short announcement. I wanted to announce our upcoming 5th Annual Neighborhood Best Practices Conference. This year's conference will be held Saturday, October 11th from 7:30 to 4 p.m. at the Downtown High School at 364 South 4th. You must pre-register and the cost is $5, which includes a continental breakfast and a boxed lunch. You can register online at liveunitedcentralohio.org, liveunitedcentralohio.org. For additional information, please call 241-3071. And in addition, 6 microgrants will be awarded this year to programs that reflect engagement, and there are qualifications for those grants, one of which is that you must be present at the conference. So please register, and I look forward to seeing you at the Neighborhood Best Practices Conference again on October 11th. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Paley. Councilmember Tyson?
Yes, yes, I have one resolution and one announcement. I have resolution number 150X-2014. I'm going to ask Pat Williamson from the Ohio Humanities Council and Jamie Goldstein from GCAC to walk towards the podium. And this resolution is to recognize and celebrate the month of October as National Arts and Humanities Month. Whereas the month of October has been recognized as a National Arts and Humanities Month by thousands of art and cultural organizations, communities and states across the country, as well as by the White House and Congress for more than 2 decades. Whereas the arts and humanities embody much of the accumulated wisdom, intellect, and imagination of mankind. And whereas the arts and humanities play a unique role in the lives of our families and our communities and our country, and they enrich the lives of every American. Whereas the nonprofit arts industry also strengthens our economy by generating $135.2 billion in total economic activity annually, and by supporting the full-time equivalent of 4.13 million jobs. Whereas Central Ohio hosts exemplary artists, art organizations, art events of public value that educate and engage all audiences in our community. And whereas the Central Ohio creative economy sector, that's nonprofit and for-profit arts, design, performance, media, and marketing industries, generates over $3 billion in business receipts each year and employs 25,000 people. Whereas Central Ohio's nonprofit arts and cultural organizations generate $226 million annually for the local economy and attract nearly 6 million people to events each year. Now, therefore, be it resolved by this Council of the City of Columbus. This council does hereby recognize and celebrate October as the National Arts and Humanities Month in Central Ohio and call upon our citizens to celebrate and promote the arts and culture in our nation and to specifically encourage a greater participation by those said citizens in taking action for the arts and humanities in their towns and cities. I move for passage.
Craig Klein, Mills, Paley, Tyson, President Ginther.
Thank you. Jamie, the podium is yours.
Thank you, Councilmember Tyson. I'm Jamie Goldstein, Vice President of Marketing, Communications, and Events at the Greater Columbus Arts Council, and this is Pat Williamson joining me, Executive Director of the Ohio Humanities Council. On behalf of GCAC and the Ohio Humanities Council, thank you, Councilmember Tyson, Council President Ginther, and all of City Council members for recognizing National Arts and Humanities Month in Columbus. It is an important collective celebration of our culture in our community and across the country. The arts and humanities play a very important role in our lives. They provide enrichment and strive to provide enlightening and transformational experiences to the broadest possible audiences. Locally, from the restoration of the Great Lincoln Theater to the Columbus Landmark Walks, Columbus is a city that clearly values its arts and cultural heritage. The arts and humanities allow us to explore ideas, express emotions, and better appreciate cultures from around the world. And National Arts and Humanities Month is an opportunity to recognize and celebrate that positive impact that culture brings to our schools and to our community. We would like to encourage every individual to celebrate National Arts and Humanities Month. Whether you're a school teacher, a city council member, a doctor, a fourth grader, or a grandmother, you can see a play, visit a museum, participate in a book club, or an open poetry mic night. The list is really endless. The only requirement is to enjoy the wonderful cultural treasures of our great city. Thank you.
Okay.
Says it all. Thank you.
I move for passage. Thank you.
Craig Klein, Mills, Paley, Tyson, President Ginther.
And I have one announcement, and it's under Workforce Development. Job Search Basics for Mature Job Seekers. There's a two-session workshop for job seekers 65 years or older to help you with resume development, interviewing skills, networking, company search, and LinkedIn. The sessions will be held at the Gahanna Library, and it's for called Employment for Seniors. If you want to get involved in the workshops, the number is 614-863-1319. Again, 614-863-1219. And this is, again, for job basics for our employment for mature job seekers. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any comments from our elected officials? City Auditor? City Attorney? Judge Barros? Anything from the courts? Are there any requests by members of council for the removal of an ordinance or resolution from the consent action portion of the agenda? Seeing none, may we have a motion to waive reading of the titles of 30-day legislation by the city clerk? Clerk, call the roll.
Craig Klein, Mills, Paley, Tyson, President Ginther.
Thank you. Will the clerk now read into the record the ordinance numbers of 30-day legislation on tonight's agenda for first reading?
Finance Committee, Ordinance 2136-2014. Recreation and Parks Committee, Ordinance 2059-2014. Public Utilities Committee, Ordinances 1953-1974, 2054-2077-2014. Development Committee, Ordinance 2183-2014. Zoning Committee, Ordinances 2165 and 2166-2014.
The following ordinances appear on our agenda as consent actions. Will the clerk now read the ordinance numbers of each into the record?
Resolution of Expression 0166X-2014, Finance Committee, ordinances 1751, 2075, 2078, 2098, 2099, 2102, 2131, 2137, and 2163-2014. Health and Human Services Committee, ordinance 2108-2014. Recreation and Parks Committee, ordinances 1880, 2034, 2129, 2132, and 2153-2014. Public Safety and Judiciary Committee, ordinance 2012-2014. Public Utilities Committee, ordinances 1863, 1916, 1938, 1947, and 2127-2014. Public Service and Transportation Committee, ordinances 2060, 2062, 2073, 2084, 2149-2014. Excuse me, Technology Committee, ordinance 2016-2014, and appointment from the Mayor's Office numbered A0126-2014.
Thank you, Clerk Blevins. Any questions, comments regarding the consent agenda this evening? If not, may I have a motion for approval of these items designated as consent actions? Is there a second? Clerk, call the roll by voice.
Craig? Klein? Mills?
Yes, with the exception of ordinance 2034-2014, on which I am abstaining.
Paley? Tyson? President Ginther.
Yes, consent agenda carries. We'll now proceed with the second reading of 30-day tabled and emergency legislation. The first committee is the Finance Committee. Councilmember Tyson chairs that committee. Madam Chair, the floor is yours.
Thank you. The first ordinance in finance is 1975-2014. It's to authorize the Finance and Management Director on behalf of the Fleet Management Division to establish purchase orders from previously established universal term contracts with multiple vendors for the purchase of vehicles for use by various city departments, and to enter into contracts for additional vehicles and upfitting, to authorize the appropriation expenditure of $1,002,171 from the Special Income Tax Fund, and to declare an emergency. The competitive bidding was for all of these vehicles. For the upfitting will go through the Division of Purchasing, and these vehicles are to be purchased as replacements for older, high mileage and high maintenance vehicles currently in service. These vehicles are fuel efficient and will relieve the city of maintenance expenses and general upkeep. Investing in these units will reduce overall maintenance costs and petroleum fuel consumption. And most of these vehicles are going to be within the Department of Recreation and Parks. And with that, I would move for passage.
Craig, Klein, Mills, Paley, Tyson, President Ginther.
Thank you. The next ordinance is 2145-2014, and it is to amend the 2014 capital improvement budget to authorize the city auditor to transfer funds between projects within the Construction Management Capital Improvement Fund, to authorize the Finance and Management Director to enter into a contract on behalf of the Office of Construction Management with R.W. Satterlin Building Company for the construction of the McKinley Avenue complex at 1355 McKinley Avenue, to authorize the expenditure of $10,639,200 from the Construction Management Capital Improvement Fund and the Information Services Fund, and to declare an emergency. And Adam, would you like to make any comments on this legislation?
So we're going to be moving people from 4 different departments into this new set of buildings. The work will include hazardous materials abatement, building demolition, site excavation, roadways, site utilities, and existing building renovations. And we're also going to be moving the central outpost, scheduled to be operational by the end of December 2015.
Thank you. We are really excited to have this new facility, and as he just mentioned, and it's going to be built on a 6.4-acre site. And again, those departments that will be moving there and certainly provide a more efficient and cost-effective services are going to be the infrastructure management, facilities management, environmental abatement, and the technology telecom interconnect. There'll be 7 buildings at this complex, and this is important too, where this complex is located, because it's located at a short distance from the CODA facility, where we are collaborating with CODA for the construction of a compressed natural gas fueling station. And with that, I will move for passage.
Craig, Klein, Mills, Paley, Tyson, President Ginther.
Thank you. I would now like to move to Health and Human Services. Thank you. And I have ordinance number 2068-2014 to authorize and direct the Board of Health to modify and increase a contract for translation interpretation services with Access to Interpreters LLC, and to authorize expenditure of $5,000 from the Health Special Revenue Fund. This brings this contract to now not to exceed more than $213,000. And I'm going to let Nancy Bechtel make some comments on this legislation.
Thank you. President Ginther, Councilwoman Tyson, and other council members. Just to give you a little background on our interpretation program. So according to the U.S. Census, 9% of Franklin County residents are foreign-born, triple the rate from 1990. The newest refugee groups in the area are Bhutanese, Burmese, Congolese, Eritrean, Iraqi, and Somali. And the growth is primarily due to recent resettlement, especially of Nepalese and Iraqi refugees, and a steady influx of people from Eastern Africa and Latin America. In 2013, we saw over 4,500 face-to-face interpretation encounters at the Health Department, and provided another 3,700 telephone encounters. Usage is up 9% over the past year, and the top requested languages are Spanish and Somali, which account for 44% of usage, and then Nepali, Amharic, which is the Ethiopian, and Arabic. And then there's another 19 languages for a total of 24 that we've provided over the past year. The interpretation services are housed at Columbus Public Health in our Office of Minority Health, our Health Equity section in the Neighborhood Health Division, and we're always welcome to take calls or questions about our interpreter services.
Thank you, Nancy, for providing that information, and it's an important service to be able to provide our residents to ensure that they get the health care that is necessary for them to live a quality of life. So with that, I move for passage.
Craig, Klein, Mills, Paley, Tyson, President Ginther.
Thank you. That's all I have on my committee this evening, President Ginther.
Thank you, Councilmember Tyson. Our next committee is the Recreation and Parks Committee. Councilmember Craig chairs that committee. Mr. Chairman, the floor is yours.
Thank you, President Ginther. Tonight in the Recreation and Parks Committee, I have ordinance 2125-2014 to authorize and direct the Director of Recreation and Parks to enter into contract with MIACOM and Appel Architects, Inc., doing business as M+A Architects, for the Indian Village Lodge Design Project, to authorize the expenditure of $458,770 with a contingency of $46,000 for a total of $504,770 from the Recreation and Parks Bond Fund, and to declare an emergency. This ordinance is for the design of a new lodge at Indian Village Day Camp. The lead-certified net zero energy lodge will serve the outdoor education programs offered by Indian Village Day Camp and allow for the future expansion of programming. It would also provide meeting and overnight space for community groups. The lodge would be the first net zero energy building owned by the city. Director McKnight, relevant comments.
Chairman Craig, President Ginther, members of council, this is an exciting project. We've had two lodges over in the Indian Village Camp. One's been closed for some time. We started out looking at replacing that one. It's in the floodplain, which complicates replacing it or renovating it in its current location. So we're going to build a new. We'll probably take that one down, build new in a slightly different location up out of the floodplain. But we are looking at, as you say, a zero net energy use facility, which will be unique. not only as I think it's a great example of what we can do in the city, but it's a great learning tool as part of the outdoor education camps that go along with being an energy efficient facility. So we're excited about this and would certainly appreciate your support for this ordinance.
This certainly is an important project, and I would ask the support of colleagues on council. If there are no questions or comments, I move for passage.
Craig, Klein, Mills, Paley, Tyson, President Ginther.
Ordinance 2141-2014 to authorize and direct the Director of Recreation and Parks to enter into a contract with Gooteneck Construction Company for the Glenwood Recreation Center renovation project to authorize expenditure of $6,615,000 with a contingency of $600,000 for a total of $7,215,000 from the Recreation and Parks voted bond fund to authorize the city auditor to transfer $1,812,020 within the voted Recreation and Parks bond fund to amend the 2014 capital improvements budget and to declare an emergency. This ordinance would allow for the demolition and construction of a new Glenwood Recreation Center. The new building will include a gymnasium, auditorium, new parking lot, and exterior basketball courts. The new structure will be more energy efficient and easier for staff to monitor, creating a safer environment for visitors. Director McKnight, comments.
Chairman Craig, President Ginther, members of council, we're excited about this project. I believe all of you have probably been in Glenwood Recreation Center at one time or another and know how, what condition it's in and how difficult it is to manage and operate. It's really almost like a tri-level home or a three-level home, lots of stairs, and makes supervision very difficult. As we began to look at the renovation of this center, as we're doing our renovation of many of our centers, we ultimately came to the conclusion that the best thing was to demolish this structure and build a new facility. New one will be slightly larger, it'll be one floor, obviously it'll be a lot easier to supervise. We've been working closely with the Hilltop Area Commission and the Hilltop community, and we're again excited about being able to move forward with this project.
Thank you very much, Director. We appreciate your work and all of those in the planning stages, certainly your staff regarding this important park and what it's going to mean for the children and families in the west side of Columbus. If there are no questions or comments, I move for passage.
Craig, Klein, Mills, Paley, Tyson, President Ginther.
Thank you, President Ginther. That is all that I have, sir.
Thank you, Councilmember Craig. Our next committee is the Public Safety and Judiciary Committee. Councilmember Klein chairs that committee. Mr. Chairman, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Council President. One piece on Public Safety and Judiciary, 2119-2014, to amend the 2014 capital improvement budget to authorize the transfer of $339,923 between projects within the Public Safety's Capital Improvements Fund to authorize the Director of the Department of Finance and Management on behalf of the Department of Public Safety to establish a purchase order with AdviseX Technologies from a pre-existing universal term contract for the purchase of secondary data storage equipment for the Arbiter Cruise Camera Video System to authorize the expenditure of $339,923 from the Safety Capital Improvements Fund and to declare an emergency. Deputy Director speaks.
Thank you, Chairman Klein. President Ginther, members of council. Please recall we had an issue uploading about 30 of our police cruisers with video. That's 30 out of a fleet of approximately 320. I am pleased to report to you that those issues have been resolved, an initial server has been implemented, and the videos are properly uploading. The purpose of the ordinance before you tonight is to align ourselves with best technology practices, specifically having a backup or a secondary server. So the purpose of this ordinance is to purchase that fail-safe server.
Thank you, Deputy Director speaks. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Craig, Klein, Mills, Paley, Tyson, President Ginther.
Council President, moving on to public utilities. 1949-2014 to authorize the Director of Public Utilities to enter into a planned contract modification with Black & Veatch for professional construction management services for the OSIS augmentation and relief sewer phase 1 and 2 project for the Division of Sewage and Drainage to transfer within and expend up to $6,215,000 $248,359 from the Sanitary Sewer General Obligation Fund and to amend the 2014 capital improvements budget. Director Davies.
Chairman Klein, President Ginther, members of council, we've talked a lot about the ORS project. This is the large combined sewer tunnel that we are using to reduce overflows. This is the 4 of 5 planned modifications for Black and Veatch. They are our contract managers for this project, and because of the large dollars, this is a $330 million project total. We broke down most of the contracts in planned modifications so that we could spread the cost out over several years.
Thank you, Director Davies. Any questions for the Director of Public Utilities on this piece? I move for passage.
Craig, Klein, Mills, Paley, Tyson, President Ginther.
The final piece in utilities is 2009-2014. To authorize the Director of Public Utilities to enter into a construction contract with U.S. Utility Contractor Company for the South Linden Alleys street lighting project for the Division of Power, to authorize and transfer the expenditure of $365,455.97 and to amend the 2014 capital improvement budget. Director.
Chairman Klein, President Ginther, members of the council, we're very excited about this. This is a project that we're doing in partnership with our good friends in the development department through UIF dollars. That's where neighborhoods get to choose what they would like those dollars spent on. In this case, they elected to light alleys in South Linden neighborhood. And so we are going to move forward in that and are very excited to do so.
So South Linden chose this project, Director?
Yeah, typically, and Director Shoney could speak to it more, but typically they will have meetings and interested neighbors can come and they rank different projects in the neighborhood that they would like to see done. And streetlights is typically one that if the neighborhood does not have lights in the alley particularly, that's not something we normally do through the general fund or through the Division of Power. So it's a good use of those dollars.
It's my understanding 287 lights?
That is correct, sir.
Okay, great. Any questions or comments? I move for passage.
Craig, Klein, Mills, Paley, Tyson, President Ginther.
Council President, that's all I have.
Thank you, Councilmember Klein. Our next committee is the Development Committee. Councilmember Mills chairs that committee. Madam Chair, the floor is yours.
Thank you, President Ginther. Tonight in development, I have the following ordinance beginning with 2058-2014 to amend the 2014 capital improvement budget and to authorize a transfer and appropriation of monies within the Northland and Other Acquisitions Fund in order to transfer cash from the Green Columbus Initiatives Fund to Economic and Community Development to replace funds that were used in 2012. In 2012, the Green Columbus Initiatives Fund program received and approved 2 grant applications totaling $94,000 from NRI LLC in order to foster a sustainable building through LEED certification. At that time, the Green Columbus Initiatives Fund had a cash balance of $203 that would not be replenished until the 2012 bond sale. Ordinance 1046-2012 authorized a transfer of cash from Economic and Community Development to Green Columbus Initiatives Fund to provide sufficient funding for the 2 grant agreements. The Economic and Community Development Fund is now being refunded to finance new development projects. If there are no comments or questions, I think I have a speaker on this ordinance, I believe. Mr. Nathaniel George Wilkins. Mr. Wilkins? Mr. Wilkins, you signed up in support of Ordinance 2058. If you'll please state your first and last name and address, and you have 3 minutes to share your comments related to Ordinance 2058.
Nathaniel George Wilkins, 1612 Arlington Avenue. I just want to know more clarification where this money is going to, what was it used for in 2012, and what it will be used for right now in 2014. And thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Wilkins. Director Shoney, you have any comments to add for Mr. Wilkins?
Just very quickly, the Green Columbus Fund does 2 things. It helps pay for assessments of buildings. The other that it does is when a company is going to apply for LEED certification, that they're building a green building, the funds can be used to help offset the cost of that certification. The money going back into our Economic and Community Development Fund
is funds that we use to further our economic development programs, whether that be through doing studies on various neighborhoods. There was the report this morning about the Bryce Road study that we're doing similar projects like that.
Thank you. If there are no other comments or questions, I move for passage.
Craig, Klein, Mills, Paley, Tyson, President Ginther.
Next, I have ordinance 2236-2014 to list the 309 to 319 South 4th Street property on the Columbus Register of Historic Properties as CR number 65 and to declare an emergency. Application has been made by Benjamin D. Rickey and Company in cooperation with Mercantile Condominiums LLC to list a property located at 309-319 South 4th Street on the register. The commission hosted a public hearing on July 17, 2014, at which they voted unanimously to recommend the listing of the property on the Columbus Register based on the following criteria outlined in CC 3117. I believe we have a speaker on this ordinance. I want to say it's Nancy Ricci. Ms. Ricci, I believe you signed up in support of this ordinance. If you please state your first and last name again and any organizations that you represent, and if you would please share your comments within 3 minutes.
Nancy Ricci, 382 East Town Street, Columbus, Ohio. I prepared this nomination, and I'm just here on behalf of the owner. This listing that will become effective tomorrow will allow the owner to apply for a state historic preservation tax credit. The deadline is tomorrow. The owner, it's a 55,000 square foot building, and it will be converted into 50 apartments and office space. So I just want to thank you for your action tonight.
Thank you for coming down and speaking. If I understand correctly, there is some architectural craftsmanship to the facility,
Yes.
and that's part of the preservation reasons for
Yes.
it being listed.
In using the historic tax credit, they have to follow certain guidelines. Having it listed in the Columbus Register means that all the exterior changes will need to be approved.
And it's got rehabilitation and adaptive use, I get that
Yes.
right? Okay,
Yeah.
thank you very much. If there are any other comments or questions, I'd like to move for passage.
Craig, Klein, Mills, Paley, Tyson, President Ginther.
President Ginther, I'd like to proceed to the Environment Committee. In Environment this evening, I'd like to present Ordinance 2167-2014 to authorize the Director of the Department of Development to enter into a grant agreement with Trolley Barn LLC to enable Phase 1 and Phase 2 assessment work and an asbestos survey at the site located at 1610 East Oak Street pursuant to the Green Columbus Fund program to authorize expenditure of up to $143,426 from the Northland and Other Acquisitions Fund and to declare an emergency. I believe we have a speaker. I'm going to ask Mr. Brad DeHaze to approach the podium and share comments related to this project. I would share some comments while we're waiting, but I think you might say exactly what I'm already going to share.
You can go right ahead.
Go right ahead. Please state your first and last name, address, and the organizations that you represent. You have 3 minutes to speak for this ordinance.
My name is Brad DeHaze. I'm 2006 Cambridge Boulevard in Upper Arlington. I represent Trolley Barn LLC, and myself regarding the Trolley Barn property. The Green Columbus grant that we're looking for is for the Phase 2 portion and Phase 1 inspection, environmental inspection of the property. As you know, this was the historic site of where the City of Columbus had the municipal rail company, where the electric rail cars prior to the buses used to house them on site. There was an existing paint shop, an existing mechanics shop, and there's also the actual trolley barn still on site. Property's changed hands a couple of times. I used to live on Franklin Park. I lived there for some time. I owned several houses on Franklin Park South, one of which I lived in backed up to the trolley barn. So I'm very familiar with the site. I'm a member of the Franklin Park Civic Association, and excited, extremely excited. I've seen what's happened in the neighborhood. There's a lot of great people that live through there. I think we actually can, with a little bit of commerce, we can actually continue an urban sprawl out through Old Town East that they've already started further to the west in the neighborhood. I think it's, we're looking at different mixed-use concepts for it, but the timeline is going to be the big thing, and the triggering action for the timeline as far as what we're looking to do is going to be the Phase 2 inspection, because we have to know the economics of what we're dealing with.
Thank you, Mr. DeHaze. And I wanted to share that Councilmember Klein and myself took a tour out in that area and met with the Civic Association group, and that was one of the properties that concerned them the most in terms of what's going to happen in terms of the redevelopment there. And there's some other properties along that way that some other work the CPO is engaging in. So looking forward to redevelopment in that area, and I know that the folks in that neighborhood are looking forward to the redevelopment. And I, again, wanted to emphasize to my colleagues that the timeline for Phase 1 and Phase 2, as you mentioned, is related to going from assessment to moving into survey, and all of that being timely to getting the redevelopment moved. So thank you for coming down to council. If there are no other comments or questions, I'd like to move for passage.
Craig, Klein, Mills, Paley, Tyson, President Ginther.
President Ginther, I'd like to move to rules and reference. Tonight in rules and reference, I have the following ordinance 2029-2014 to enact new sections 2101.58 and 2105.27 and amend sections 2151.18 and 2155.05 of the Columbus City Codes to provide for the operation and regulation of car sharing services by the Director of Public Service. Just wanted to share a little bit in relationship to this ordinance. A hearing was held to share about the success and the support of the pilot that happened, that was recommended just a year ago. We're amending the city codes to allow for this operation within the city that started last November, and the one-year pilot, I believe, Councilmember Paley being very active and teasing out the benefit of this not only to our citizens, but being parking friendly to our neighborhoods. And the pilot program has now moved forward, and Car2Go seems to be a fixture on the Columbus streets, being used by men and women of all ages taking advantage of this service, as well as all income areas. I think I've seen them in every single corner of the city, Car2Go, but I want to make sure that I emphasize to all that the ordinance is not related to Car2Go. It is related to car sharing services, as you've seen many other changes that we've made related to alternative transportation with a variety of companies, and not just one company, but on the benefit for the citizens that car sharing has, not only for our current residents, but on behalf of our efforts to accommodate more visitors to our city as well. The Department of Public Service has certainly monitored the performance of the pilot and has recommended the Columbus City Codes be amended to allow the Director of Public Service to move and promulgate the rules and regulations. So this is after a successful year of the pilot. The Department of Public Safety will continue to work with stakeholders, as they have throughout this process, in making any necessary changes, as well as adopting the language into permanent legislation. So I want to thank all the folks in public service that have worked on this, Randy and team, and Leslie as well, that have been helpful. I think we had a great informative hearing on this ordinance, and I would like to ask Chet to please approach the podium to share from Car2Go some comments related to the pilot, particularly some of the stats that we can talk about. And again, a few efficiency pieces and many others. Chet, if you please approach the podium and share some comments from Car2Go.
Thank you, Councilmember Mills. Council, thank you for having me tonight. As regards to the pilot, it's been a very, very successful first year. We have our current home area serves 40 square miles in the city, in the central Ohio area. We have over 15,000 members. We are eco-friendly vehicles, get 35 miles per gallon. They're compact and efficient, taking up about a half a space. And as you may have seen, you can often find two vehicles parked at one traditional meter. With 300 vehicles in the city of Columbus serving 15,000 members, you can see how that would reduce congestion. And as an alternative transportation option, we've worked well with the other services like CODA and COGO out there. We have developed a fantastic working relationship with the city. We thank Leslie Strader, Randy Bowman, Director Davies, Councilmember Paley, Councilmember Mills for their support. I feel it's important to note that we are not just the Short North and German Village car sharing program, but rather we serve all those residents in Columbus, in our home area, including those lower income and transit dependent communities. Car goes in Linden, we're in Franklinton, we're on the Near East Side, the Livingston area, and many more, and will continue to grow with the city and as our demands. At that public hearing, there was some interest encouraging us to continue to secure designated private parking spaces. We have done that previously with destinations like Easton, job centers like ECDI, and we'll continue to do so, and we'll be glad to follow up with any of those interested parties.
Thank you very much. As you heard from Chad, during hearing time, we hope, and if there's a need from our citizens and our visitors for more car sharing, that we hope that more private parking will be taken advantage and continuing to work to make sure there's no impact on our neighborhoods as it relates to car sharing best we can, but certainly a benefit to our citizens as it relates to eco-friendly transportation opportunities, and as well as, again, our visitors. It has been taken up quite successfully with the residents. We had several people attend the hearing, happy to see the cars available to use, those who may be struggling to afford their own vehicle, and some who's choosing not to own a vehicle because it's working and putting the environment first as it relates to eco-friendly car sharing. If there are no other comments or questions, I'd like to move for passage.
Craig, Klein, Mills, Paley, Tyson, President Ginther.
That's all I have this evening. That's by way of ordinance. I have one announcement I'd like to make. As you know, I take the opportunity as Chair of Education on behalf of City Council to highlight things happening with Columbus City Schools and all of our education institutions throughout the city, exciting news. But I wanted to announce from September 22nd through October, all the way through, you can take the official GED Ready Practice Test for free at the Columbus City Schools Adult and Community Education Center, 2323 Lexington Avenue. Individuals taking the exam will be able to determine if they are ready to pass the GED or find out what area they need to work on to be ready to pass the test. For more information or to schedule a free GED practice exam, contact ACE at 614-365-5245. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Mills. Anything else to come before council this evening? We do have non-agenda speakers, and we do have zoning regular meeting number 50 scheduled for 6:30. If there's nothing else come before council, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn. Is there a second? Clerk, call the roll.
Craig, Klein, Mills, Paley, Tyson, President Ginther.
We stand adjourned. I believe we have 4 non-agenda speakers we'll take momentarily.
Over there impatiently whistling at you.
Patiently doing something.
Yeah.
Regular meeting number 50 will now come to order. Can I get a motion to dispense with the reading of the journal? Is there a second? Clerk, call the roll.
Craig, Klein, Mills, Paley, Tyson, President Ginther.
Are there any, thank you, are there any communications and reports received by the city clerk?
No, there are not.
Any first readings of 30-day legislation?
No, there are none.
We will now go to the zoning committee. I am bringing forth legislation from the zoning committee this evening. First on the agenda is 2100-2014 to grant a variance from the provisions of section 3332.039 R4 residential district, 3312.039 3312.13B driveway, 3312.49B minimum number of parking spaces required, 3321.05A2 vision clearance, 3321.05B2 vision clearance, 3332.18D basis of computing area, and 3332.21 building lines of the Columbus City Codes for the property located at 875 Summit Street, 43215, to permit a 6-unit apartment building with reduced development standards in the R4 residential district. We don't have any speakers on this legislation this evening. Any comments or questions from council members? If not, first I'd move to amend to emergency. Clerk, call the roll.
Craig, Klein, Mills, Paley, Tyson, President Ginther.
Amended to emergency. And second, move for passage. Clerk, call the roll.
Craig, Klein, Mills, Paley, Tyson, President Ginther.
Passed.
Thank you very much.
Next, we have 2101-2014 to rezone 245 East Campus View Boulevard, 43235, being 3.66 plus or minus acres located at the southeast corner of East Campus View Boulevard in Huntington Park Drive from CPD Commercial Plan Development District to CPD Commercial Planned Development District. Any questions or comments regarding this ordinance? If not, first I'd move to amend as submitted to the clerk. Clerk, call the roll.
Craig, Klein, Mills, Paley, Tyson, President Ginther.
Amended as submitted to the clerk. Next, I'd move to amend to emergency. Clerk, call the roll.
Craig, Klein, Mills, Paley, Tyson, President Ginther.
Amended to emergency. And finally, would move for passage. Clerk, call the roll.
Craig, Klein, Mills, Paley, Tyson, President Ginther.
Passed. There's nothing else to come before zoning this evening. Entertain a motion to adjourn. Clerk, call the roll.
Craig, Klein, Mills, Paley, Tyson, President Ginther.
We stand adjourned.